Well, I saw this from Vice.com and had to share it. The title is "You Now Need a Government ID to Access Pornhub in Louisiana." Let's take a look here. I actually have not viewed this yet. Viewing Pornhub while in Louisiana now requires providing a driver's license to verify your age. It's a nice step in the right direction. A new law makes porn sites liable for content deemed harmful to minors if it doesn't install age verification technology for anyone accessing them in Louisiana, and it's already affecting how people in the state access Pornhub. The law, which was signed by Louisiana's Democratic Governor John Bell Edwards in June, became effective on January 1st, 2023. The law, passed as Act 440, states, quote, "Any commercial entity that knowingly and intentionally publishes or distributes material harmful to minors on the internet from a website that contains a substantial portion of such material shall be held liable, glory to God, if the entity fails to perform reasonable age verification methods to verify the age of individuals attempting to access the material." And no, having a box that says, "Are you over 21?" doesn't count. A substantial portion is 33.3% or more material on a site that's harmful to minors. Material that's harmful to minors, according to the act, is defined as appealing to prurient interests, sexual interests, and that consists of, am I going to read this? I'm not going to read this because it involves body parts that are, very sensitive. Why don't we say that? So I'm not going to read through that because some of this is going to be triggering for you, but it's body parts, sexual acts, and things like this. It also states that any commercial entity in violation will be liable to an individual for damages resulting from a minor's accessing the material. It's going to be very exciting when Pornhub gets sued to oblivion. I'm really pumped about this. Motherboard confirmed through a virtual private network that Pornhub is showing people visiting the site from a Louisiana-based IP address a page that requires identity verification before entering. Louisiana law now requires us to put in, this is what it says on the page. Louisiana law now requires us to put in place a process for verifying the age of users who connect to our site from Louisiana, the page says. When Motherboard tested the verification, Pornhub directed us to All Pass Trust, a third-party identity verification site which connects to LAW or LA Wallet, a digital driver's license for Louisianans. Pornhub guarantees that Pornhub doesn't connect data during this process. Other major adult sites, it kills me that we call them adult sites as if this is the sort of things adults do, but anyway. Other major adult sites including, I'm not going to say their names, we don't need to give them more press, are still accessible from Louisiana as normal. OnlyFans site hangs on the loading page that only displays its logo when accessed from a Louisiana IP, and eventually times out before loading the site. Pornhub, and then these other ones, didn't immediately respond to a request for a comment. Honestly, what's good about this, because I know you could say, well, golly, we should be doing so much more, at least that's how I feel, but what I really like about these laws now being enacted is if these people don't require age verification, then we can sue the absolute piss out of them. And I'm really looking forward to when that starts to happen. It was introduced by Representative L'Oreal Schagel, who recently supported legislation that banned certain things, which I'm not going to get into. Pornography is destroying our children, and they're getting unlimited access to it on the internet. And so if the pornography companies aren't going to be responsible, I thought we need to go ahead and hold them accountable. Boom! Sex addiction as a diagnosis is highly contentious among clinicians. We're not going to get into that right now. I've addressed this in my book. It's been addressed elsewhere. Obviously, we need to distinguish too between porn addiction and sex addiction. I mean, if you were addicted to a video game in which you played ice hockey, you wouldn't say that you were addicted to ice hockey. This is clearly a very different activity. The point is, even if it's not addictive, and I think it is, porn is, that it's still detrimental. So Anyway, similar age verifications proposals have been made in Australia as well as in the UK, where the online safety bill has been debated, modified, killed, and revived. And to those who are going to say, well, what about free speech? Showing people sex isn't speech, so shut up. Sex workers have denounced this. We've got to stop calling them sex workers. We've got to start calling them paid, well, just prostitutes. Virtual prostitutes. This is not a form of work. This is a form of exploitation that should be not just frowned upon and just not encouraged, but we've got to start, I think, penalizing those people who would seek out these prostitutes. I'm not saying my preference wouldn't be at first to penalize the sex workers. I mean, I'd want to think about it more, but I mean, I live in a rundown part of Ohio, and we have prostitutes in town who are being exploited by disgusting, beastly men. I want to prosecute the John. I don't want to prosecute the woman who may feel she's in such a dire situation that she has no other option. Anyway, we can talk about that later. In December, Republican Senator Mike Lee from Utah introduced the Interstate Obscenity Definition Act, which seeks to, quote, establish a national definition of obscenity that would apply to obscene content that is transmitted via interstate or foreign communications. Ah, fantastic. As well as the Shielding Children's Retinas from Egregious Exposure on the Net. That's one way to phrase it. Or Screen Act. Okay, I'm sorry. I know that sometimes you really want an acronym for your thing. It's like they were like, let's call it the Screen Act. Now, what words can we come up with? Shielding children's retinas against egregious exposure on the net. Fair enough, whatever. Let's continue. Which would require porn sites to use age verification technology. Advocates for the adult industry say that Lee's proposed act and those like it are part of a broad push to censor sexual speech online. Shut up, it's not speech. You're all deviants, and I'm glad that this is happening. God bless.